to do the presentation today. Ron?
In the spirit.
In the spirit. Oh, and yeah, the Spirits Committee.
In the spirit. But you can't stay here. Now, there are just three people I want to bring to your attention just at this moment. One of them is Matt Evertson. One of them is Mari Sandoz. And the other one is Esther Pilster. Now, Esther. I'll start with Mari. She really is America's most significant chronicler of the Great Plains history, in my opinion. Old Jewels will be read 200 years from now, and I think Crazy Horse, Strange Man of the Oglala, which is absolutely fabulous, that is still the definitive book about Crazy Horse, and there are lots of them. Esther Pilster, this wonderful, sweet, bright, educated. She was a teacher, she was a principal in Omaha. She was so moved in 2002 when we dedicated the Sandoz Center. I had never met her before then. I don't know about you. She was so moved that shortly after that, she called. Jeannie Bishop was our fundraiser at the time. She called Jeannie Bishop and she said, I want to remember my husband who was deceased. I want to do something for him. He owns half of a ranch northwest of Chadron, and I want to give it to the Sandoz Society. I happened to be chair at that time. I went out to the auction for the ranch. I'd never been at an auction like that. And these men that came in to bid, jean jacket, cowboy hat, 12 of them, about 12 bidders. And they came in, and the first bid had to be at least $500,000. Well, I stood in the back of the room so I could watch, and when the auctioneer going on 500,000, one of the guys raised one finger. And I think, ooh, if I had $500,000, and then they say 650,000. Beep, over here. I couldn't believe it. $935,000. That's the basis of the endowment that we have. It's grown. We're up to about 1.9 million now. I mean, Esther started that and is sort of responsible for today, quite frankly. I just like to give people credit who really earned credit. And I'm about to get to one of those people too. And that's Matt Evertson. I've respected Matt. I've liked Matt now. It's got to be 20 years. I don't know. I've lost track of time. I'm the oldest person in the room whenever I walked in. Everybody else, I had just frozen when I first knew them. So Matt's like 32, I guess, or 28, something like that. But for the past 12 years, Matt has created an important educational experience. It's the Writer's Workshop. And really, in reality, the Writer's Workshop is the extension that we're responsible for of Mari Sandoz wishes to spark people's imaginations to write it down. She told me one time, she said, I don't like to take time away from my writing, but I will to give a speech because I might be a catalyst to get you or you or you to write something worth other people's time. And that was her mantra. I never talk about Sandoz without saying she earns her place up here to encourage you to tell your family story, get it down. Your grandchildren are going to say, oh, I wish I'd have asked so-and-so. Get it down. Okay, that's a lesson. It's also an extension of the reach of Chadron State College. And now this part is about Matt. I've known Matt a long time. Matt brings a zeal for hard work, Midwest. He brings courage, which every builder needs. He brings perseverance. We Midwesterners understand that. He brings intelligence, and he brings talent to this auspicious work. And this is why we're recognizing him today as an educator, professor at the Chadron State College. And the award is in the spirit of Mari Sandoz, perseverance, do it. The board of directors of the Sandoz Society is very pleased, Matt, please come up to present this award.
Thank you.
It's okay. You're a hero.
So I'm now the ghost of Mari Sandoz?
Yes.
Will there be a walking tour in my honor?
It's up to you.
I've been walking with the spirit of Mari Sandoz for 20-some years now, and thank you, Ron. I appreciate those words so much. I associate Ron with, well, I associate him with, Nebraska Public Television, but I associate him very much with Sandoz, and I started at Chadron State College in 2001, and I think maybe the following year they dedicated the center. And so when I was there just for 1 year, for a 1-year contract, and but I've been there ever since. Don't ask me how that happened, but and so I don't know. You go to a new campus, and okay, I grew up in Rushville. I was born in Rushville, Nebraska. Hold for applause. Ron said I had to say a few words, so let's start there. I was born in, but I grew up in Kimball, Nebraska, and it's a love-hate relationship, I think, with Nebraska. And I don't think my dream was ever to return to Nebraska to do my academic career. I did get my bachelor's and master's degree here at UNL. And Steve was over in the building that I used to frequent quite often earlier, checking out, trying to sneak into the Whitman archive. Nicole, by the way. So I was, I don't know, got my PhD at Arizona State, and there was a 1-year position opened up at Chadron, and I said, I used to wrestle in the gym up there, I think. Let me go check that out. And we moved to Chadron, and I noticed they were doing this construction of this building. And so if there's construction of a building, maybe there's some money involved, So I did start, and Ron, I remember seeing Ron in some of those early, and I started to hang out with the Sandoz people. This is where the bread is buttered at Chadron State College, seems like. And then they had the dedication, and that was the year I started teaching as an American Lit professor there. And they had the celebration across the street where my office still is, and the classroom I still teach in. And we went over there, and I knew Dick Cavett was going to be there. And I'm sure my students even then didn't know who Dick Cavett was. They really don't know who Dick Cavett is. But, so we went, I stole Dick Cavett and had him come sit in on my American Lit class, the survey class. And he recited from memory, I remember this, Abide, Abide by Robert Frost. But he didn't have much to say about literature beyond that. You know, he interviewed some of the most famous writers, I would have thought. But so that began really a wonderful sort of journey with Sandoz, and you know, she was there. I think about this award, when Ron told me that they wanted to give me this award, I was reluctant because I think of it as an end of career award, you know. And I hope this isn't the end of my career, but she's been with me from the beginning of my career, and it's not an overstatement to say she's been crucial into whatever sort of success I've had as an academic, because I grew born in Rushville, Nebraska, but I never read Sandoz. And then once I got involved with the society, I started reading a lot of her stuff, and from the beginning started incorporating her work into my classroom, started attending Western Literature Associates. This was not my area where I did my PhD. Formed lots of great relationships there. Started reading Cather more fully, started reading Nair, started reading Wright Morris, publishing and giving presentations on these things. But we always come back to Sandoz, you know, because the center's there, and I really think it's important for students to have that sort of regional appreciation. And so right now my students, supposedly as we speak, they're doing their online lessons. In my Elements of Literature class, they're reading, I thought for health and wellness they should read The Smart Man. I don't know if you know that short story, but it has an interesting medical plot. So if you're interested, I can tell you about it after the lunch. And then my first year students in comp, they're reading The Kincaid Comes and The Kincaid Goes. Kincaid Comes and Goes. Because they're doing narratives right now, and they're supposed to be writing about their homes. And that's really where Sandoz, I think, we did Old Jules last fall in my co-taught class with Rangeland on Home on the Range. So Sandoz writes about so much of the area that our students are from, and she makes it real. And you know, I have a sort of love-hate relationship with Nebraska. I sometimes have a love-hate relationship with Sandoz and her writing. Some of it's hard to teach. You know, perseverance, that was the word we were using earlier. You have to persevere to get through some of her dense passages, is true. But those pieces that the students will be reading, I think they'll find those really accessible. But since doing this work with Sandoz, it's opened up this opportunity to teach those Nebraska writers at Chadron. I don't think they were being taught previously. In fact, I know my colleagues, when I first said to them, what's the Sandoz building doing over here? And they're like, Sandoz, you know. And we did spark an appreciation for Sandoz, so much so that my colleague, who was one of those scoffers, Kathy Barr, eventually went on to write about Sandoz, and her essay won the award that year in the Great Plains Quarterly on the Tom Locker. So we've made an impact, the society, and I do want to correct you, Ron, I didn't create the writing workshop. The Sandoz Society created the writing workshop, really, because we love to spend the money. How much did you say it was? Almost two? Okay. And there were iterations of the Young Writers Workshop going on campus before. I know that there were some summers that students were coming up. But when we had the Pilster Endowment, it did give us the opportunity and the resources to really think a little bit bigger. And Ron's right, we've had, this will be our 12th Storycatcher in June. You can go to storycatcherworkshop.org, and there's a save the date announcement there. June 6th, 7th, and 8th, is that the right dates? Something like that. We're going to be in the Black Hills. We're going to be at Custer State Park at the Game Lodge and Creekside. So I encourage you all to keep that in mind and check it out. And since I started my journey with Sandoz and walking with Sandoz, we've been able to incorporate a lot of these writers into our curriculum, and we even now have a regional studies emphasis within our English major. And so we teach Western literature, we teach Native American literature, and we teach environmental literature under that sort of system. So I just want to thank everybody. It really is an honor. You know, I've been joking with Brock about Sandoz versus Cather a little bit, and I have to say the Cather cocktail was better last night. And perhaps like her writing, it goes down a little bit easier and maybe a little bit more artful in its craftsmanship, but I think that the Sandoz drink was very complex, and it tasted a little bit like barbed wire on sandpaper. So, as she characterized her writing. But the writing workshop, and Steve, I have to tell the story about Steve, because this word spirit of Sandoz, we've been sort of joking around about this, but it truly is. I mean, we academics, we use our resources for all sorts of things, but it is a labor of love, and it is mostly love for me. I don't know about you, Steve. When he was talking to his students at the end, or our workshop group on the campus there in Gunnison, we were outside, and I don't know what got over you, Steve. Were you inspired by the spirit of Sandoz? Was that what it was? Well, we were using the spirit of Sandoz. Spirit of Sandoz is with us here today, because we see all these